You've probably had that moment where you walk into the kitchen, stand in front of the open refrigerator, and realize you have absolutely no idea what you were looking for. Or maybe you're reading a book and you realize you've read the same paragraph 4 times, but your brain just isn't grabbing the information. Most people over 60 are told this is just a senior moment. They're told that after 6 decades, the engine is just starting to sputter, and there's nothing you can do but wait for the inevitable. But I want to tell you something very different today. What if that mental lag isn't a sign of permanent decline, but a sign of a starved supply chain? I'm Dr. Aris Thorne. In my years specializing in geriatric nutrition and vascular health, I've seen thousands of patients who were terrified they were in the early stages of dementia. But when we looked closer, their brains and their eyes weren't broken. They were simply running on empty. They were suffering from vascular starvation. You see, your brain and your eyes are what I call luxury organs. They are the most metabolically expensive parts of your body. They require a massive, steady flow of oxygen and very specific structural nutrients to function. But as we age, the pipes, our blood vessels, can become less efficient, and our bodies get worse at pulling nutrients from a standard diet. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you a 4-step daily food protocol using common items from your local grocery store, designed to re-pressurize those pipes and rebuild the protective shields in your eyes and brain. And importantly, I'm going to show you why you must blend these foods, not juice them, if you want to avoid the sugar traps that actually make brain fog worse. But before we get to the first food, I want to hear from you. It helps me understand who I'm talking to. Drop a comment below. Do you feel your brain fog hits you hardest right when you wake up, or do you feel that heavy, wet sand slump in your head right after lunch? Let me tell you about Clara. Clara is a 67-year-old retired librarian I saw in my practice in Savannah, Georgia. Clara lived for her historical novels, but she came to me in tears because she could no longer focus for more than 10 minutes. Her vision felt dim, and she felt a persistent, heavy fatigue behind her eyes that made her want to give up her passion. She was convinced she was losing her independence, but Clara didn't have a neurological disease. She had a supply chain crisis. Her macula, the part of the eye responsible for sharp central vision, was literally thinning out because it lacked the structural pigment it needed to filter light. At the same time, the blood flow to her frontal lobe, the part of the brain that manages focus, was dipping significantly every afternoon. We didn't put Clara on a cocktail of experimental drugs. We changed the timing and the form of what she was eating. Most people make a critical mistake when they try to eat healthy for their brain. They juice. When you juice a carrot or an apple, you remove the fiber matrix. This sends a massive spike of liquid sugar into your bloodstream. For a 30-year-old, that's a temporary rush. For someone over 60, that sugar spike triggers immediate neuroinflammation. It's like trying to put out a fire with a cup of gasoline. Instead, we use a high-powered blender. We keep the fiber. That fiber acts like a slow-release capsule, ensuring that the nutrients reach your brain in a steady, healing stream rather than a chaotic flood. Clara started with our first morning retinal wake-up, and within 3 weeks, the dimness she felt in the mornings began to lift. Let me show you exactly what she did and why it works. The protocol is built around your body's daily biological clock. We are going to strategically feed your cognitive supply chain at the exact moments your brain and eyes are looking for fuel. Step 1 is what I call the morning retinal wake-up. Most of my patients know that carrots are good for their eyes, but here's what they get wrong. They eat baby carrots dry out of a plastic bag, or they run them through a juicer. If you do that, you are wasting your time. The primary nutrient in carrots, beta-carotene, is completely fat-soluble. That means if there is no fat present in your digestive tract when you eat it, your body cannot absorb it and convert it into the active vitamin A your retinas desperately need to process morning light. So, what do we do instead? We blend half a large carrot with a healthy fat, like a small slice of avocado or a single spoonful of extra virgin olive oil, and half a cup of water. It sounds strange, but blending this small amount ensures the fiber stays intact to protect your blood sugar, and the fat instantly binds to the beta-carotene, opening the cellular doors for absorption. This leads us right into the mid-morning, when your nervous system starts demanding more complex materials. Step 2 is the mid-morning shield, and this relies on a specific combination of spinach and green apples. Why spinach? Because spinach is heavily loaded with a structural pigment called lutein. If you look at the landmark Aris 2 clinical trials conducted by the National Eye Institute, you'll see that lutein, alongside zeaxanthin, is absolutely critical for maintaining the physical density of your macula. Your macula acts like internal sunglasses for your eyes, filtering out harsh glare and creating sharp contrast. I want to tell you about Richard, a 72-year-old former civil engineer I worked with from Denver, Colorado. Richard was terrified because the headlight glare from oncoming traffic was becoming so blinding that he stopped driving after 4 p.m. He thought he was developing rapid cataracts. The truth was, his macular pigment had been starved for a decade. We introduced this mid-morning blended shield, just a handful of spinach and half an apple for taste and fiber. The folate in the spinach supported his neural transmission speed, while the lutein began rebuilding that protective visual filter. Within 2 months, Richard told me the sharp, painful halos around headlights had softened dramatically. Now let me ask you a quick question. Which of these scenarios sounds most like what you're experiencing? Are you struggling more with that visual glare like Richard, or does your struggle start a few hours later with a massive drop in mental energy? Tell me in the comments, because identifying your weakest point in the day is the first step to fixing it. If you answered mental energy, then step 3 is going to change your life. This is the 2 PM Frontal Lobe Rescue. When you hit the wall at 2 p.m., when you find yourself staring blankly at a computer screen or reading the same page of a book over and over, what do you usually do? You probably reach for coffee. But here's the biological reality. Coffee is a vasoconstrictor. It temporarily shrinks your blood vessels while masking the chemical in your brain that tells you you're tired. It doesn't actually give your brain more oxygen, it just temporarily hides the exhaustion. At 2 p.m., your brain isn't lacking caffeine. It is lacking oxygen. The blood flow to your frontal lobe, the center of executive function and focus, naturally dips in the afternoon. To rescue it, we use the most powerful natural vasodilator in the grocery store, raw beets. When you blend just a quarter of a small peeled beet into a few ounces of water and drink it with its fiber, your body converts the dietary nitrates into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals the smooth muscles inside your blood vessels to relax and open up. Sports scientists have used beet extracts for years to increase Olympic stamina, proving that the oxygen surge to the tissues is highly measurable and highly effective. I saw this firsthand with Helen, a 64-year-old grandmother in Scottsdale, Arizona. Helen confessed to me that she had stopped driving across town to see her grandkids in the late afternoons because her brain fog felt so thick she didn't trust her own reaction times behind the wheel. She was heartbroken. When we introduced the 2 PM beet blend, we opened up those vascular highways. We didn't change her brain structure, we just finally delivered the oxygen her frontal lobe was begging for. Within weeks, Helen was making that afternoon drive with complete clarity. Now, because dietary nitrates actively relax your blood vessels, I want you to be a smart, empowered patient. If you are currently taking prescription medication for high blood pressure, I want you to ask your doctor this exact question at your next visit. Doctor, I am adding dietary nitrates through whole beets to improve my circulation. Should we monitor my blood pressure closely over the next month? En reinen berzenskrensesier sansenprein. A good physician will be thrilled you are taking a food-based approach and will gladly help you track your numbers to make sure your blood pressure doesn't drop too low. Finally, we reach the evening. Step 4 is the night shift repair. Many people over 60 are told to avoid all fruit before bed because of the sugar. And if you are juicing, I agree with that completely. But we are blending. About an hour before you go to sleep, I want you to blend a half cup of frozen wild blueberries with a little water or unsweetened almond milk. Why right before bed? Because while you sleep, your brain undergoes a process called the glymphatic clearance. It literally washes out the metabolic trash accumulated during the day. The Rush University Mind diet studies have repeatedly shown that the deep purple pigments in blueberries, called anthocyanins, are incredibly neuroprotective. They are one of the few compounds that easily cross the blood-brain barrier. By consuming them right as your body transitions into its repair phase, you are delivering premium antioxidant materials straight to your brain cells exactly when they are performing their nightly maintenance. Now, I know exactly what you might be thinking, looking at this 4-step list. You are probably saying, Dr. Thorne, I want to protect my brain and my vision, but I do not want to spend my retirement washing a blender 4 times a day. Insursan, orkin po sentidin, and you don't have to. The key to making this cognitive supply chain protocol work is understanding that your body prefers consistency over perfection. You do not need to make 4 separate drinks. You can combine the morning carrot and healthy fat with the mid-morning spinach and apple. Blend them together first thing in the morning and drink it over the course of 2 hours. You can do the same with the afternoon beet and the evening blueberries. 2 blends, 4 components, protecting the 4 critical windows of your day. It is entirely manageable and it costs less than what most people spend on coffee. But there is one more critical step you must take outside of your kitchen. While we are adding these dense structural nutrients into your body, we must make sure nothing is actively blocking your body from using them. As we age, it is incredibly common to be prescribed medications for acid reflux or certain frontline drugs for blood sugar management. What many doctors forget to mention in a rushed 15-minute appointment is that these exact medications can severely interfere with your stomach's ability to absorb vitamin B12 and vitamin D. If your B12 drops too low, your nerves literally lose their protective coating. It mimics the exact signs of dementia and cognitive decline. So, at your very next checkup, I want you to look your doctor in the eye and ask this exact question. Are any of my current daily medications known to deplete my B12 or vitamin D levels, and can we run a metabolic panel today to check where I stand? Do not guess, and absolutely do not stop taking your prescribed medications on your own. Just get the data. Rebuilding your cognitive supply chain means knowing exactly what is in your tank. Let's go back to Clara, the 67-year-old librarian from Savannah I told you about at the beginning. Remember, she was sitting in my office in tears, convinced that her mind was slipping and her eyes were permanently failing because she couldn't read for more than 10 minutes without overwhelming mental fatigue and visual blur. We put her on this exact blended protocol. We didn't change her glasses prescription. We didn't give her a magical anti-aging pill. We just stopped starving her luxury organs. I told Clara what I am going to tell you right now. Give your biology time to rebuild. This is not an overnight fix. Your blood vessels need time to regain their natural elasticity. Your macula, the protective filter in your eye, takes roughly 90 days to physically rebuild its pigment density from the lutein you are eating. But at week 4, Clara noticed she wasn't reaching for the light switch as often in the late afternoons. At week 8, that heavy, wet sand feeling behind her forehead at 2 p.m. started to lift. And right around the 90-day mark, Clara came back to my clinic. She had finished a 400-page historical biography the weekend before. She read for 2 hours straight, completely absorbed, without a single moment of visual pain or mental lag. Her brain wasn't broken. Her eyes weren't failing. She just finally pressurized the pipes and delivered the materials her body was begging for. You are not helpless in the aging process. Your brain and your eyes are remarkable, resilient machines that will fight to stay sharp if you simply give them the tools to do the work. You have complete control over this, starting with your very next grocery run. Now it's time to take action. I want you to choose your next step and let me know in the comments below. Comment the word protocol if you are going to pick up these 4 foods and start your daily blends tomorrow. Comment the word sharp if you are writing down that exact B12 question to bring to your doctor at your next visit. Comment the word shared if you already know exactly who needs to hear this message and you are sending this video to them today. Please hit the share button and send this to a friend, a spouse, or anyone in your life who is quietly worrying about their memory or their vision. Save this video so you can refer back to the 4 steps. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive into protecting your independence. I'm Dr. Aris Thorne. Feed your supply chain, stay sharp, and I will see you in the next video.